Hi, good afternoon, and a very belated Happy New Year to everyone, and welcome to DAMAR. I hope you're all well. This is a webinar that's designed to last about half an hour, I hope, and it's an introduction to the new CLC SQA qualifications that we're offering here at DAMAR Training. We've got quite a few attendees today, so if you've got any questions, please you can type them in, and we'll get to any questions, I hope, at the end of the webinar. If we're not able to cover them all off, then don't worry, we'll circulate both the questions and the answers at the end. Anyway, so in brief, my name is Jonathan Bourne. I'm Managing Director at DAMAR Training. I've been here for the last 11 years. The purpose of today's webinar, as I say, is to introduce you to DAMAR, who we are, how we work, our ethos, a little bit more about the program and how it's going to be delivered, because whilst these are new versions of an old qualification, these are new qualifications. How we work, talk a little bit about costs, and really give you the information that you need to help in your decision making about, well, whether to do qualifications at all and which provider for you to use. So as I said, it should take half an hour. Now I'm going to try and put the little presentations I'm going to be using up on the screen, but I will be here as well in the corner of the screen. Aha, that seems to be working. Good, thank you. Sorry about that delay. So, little bits. First of all, about who we are and our involvement with the CLC. DAMAR, as I say, has been working in vocational qualifications for 35 years now. We're a very long established provider. We are specialists in the legal sector in particular. Over the last 5 or 6 years, for my sins, by the way, I'm a former solicitor, but I've been in management for now for a number of years. The last 5 or 6 years, we've helped develop the range of apprenticeships that now exist for the legal sector, and we're actually currently working with a little over 500 students across the legal and wider justice sectors. We're accredited, as you would expect, by SQA, the awarding body that has taken over from the CLC for this program. But by way of background, we're also accredited by SILEX, by City and Guilds, by Pearson, EdExcel, and actually by some other awarding bodies in relation to things like accountancy and management as well. We do a lot of work with the legal sector. I've mentioned just a few of the people that we work with currently, but we run apprenticeship programs for people like, including Freshfields, the Crown Prosecution Service, big regional firms like Waitmans, national firms like Waitmans, with us down in London, and actually increasingly some conveyancing specialists. I mentioned Conveyancing Direct there. Outside the legal sector, we work with actually delivering the apprenticeship program to Ofsted, to the NHS, particularly in the Northwest, and also work with a number of government departments. Qualifications that we deliver in terms of level, to give you a sense, because of course the conveyancing qualifications are at level 4, so first year undergraduate level broadly, and level 6 degree level. We're delivering apprenticeships and vocational qualifications currently from levels 2, which is entry level post GLC, GCSE, all the way up actually to level 7, where we deliver the solicitor's apprenticeship actually in partnership there with the University of Law. We are inspected by Ofsted. You can go and have a look at our inspection report if you want on the Ofsted website. And just a tiny bit about our ethos. We are, as I say, a very long established provider. We've been in business for 35 years. Our business is about long-term relationships, both with our students. I'm delighted to say that we've got many apprentices who are actually the sons and daughters of former apprentices at DAMAR, and we've got employers that we are working with now who we've been working with for 10, 15, actually 20 years in some cases. We want this program, if you choose to come with us, to be successful for you and to be valuable to you as a qualification. For DAMAR, it has never been just about somebody getting a certificate. That is an important part of it, certainly, but we want your conveyancing training with DAMAR, if you choose us, to make a difference to your skills, to your competence, to your career, as well as, I hope, enabling you to become a qualified conveyancing technician or licensed conveyancer in due course. Delivery. Obviously, this is a slightly different world from the old CLC distance learning program. We've been offering distance and blended learning, so a mixture of face-to-face and online web-based electronic learning at DAMAR for a number of years now. And we've always felt, and our experience tells us, that actually distance learning works very well, but it does need to be a rich experience for students, where we have seen examples of people simply having a course manual, being registered on a program and really getting on with it and doing their learning all on their own, and then coming and sitting an exam at the end. That hasn't been a terribly valuable experience very often for students, and success rates tend to be quite low. So we've worked very hard to come up with a model that is as flexible as we can make it, but as rich as we can make it. So as well as a comprehensive course manual, which goes through all of the syllabus in detail, we're supporting that with tutorials that will be delivered online every fortnight by an expert tutor. I'll come on in a moment to our tutors. Those will be available for you to watch live, and hopefully most of our students will be able to watch them live, because if you do, then you're able to ask questions live and interact with your tutor. But don't worry, if you miss an individual webinar, you will be able to watch it, on repeat if you like. You'll be able to watch the recording whenever you like, and you will also be able to speak to your tutor online via the forum that all of our students will be part of, that is linked to the virtual learning environment that we use. So don't worry, if you miss a webinar, you will still be able to access it, and you will be able to get all of the support that you need. In terms of making those webinars, rich and valuable experiences, if you like, it won't simply be a case of going through what's in the course manual every fortnight. That wouldn't necessarily add a great deal of value. What our tutors are going to be doing is really setting students' work at least a couple of weeks ahead. As I say, the tutorials are every 2 weeks, so a couple of weeks ahead. All of the dates you will have right at the beginning of the course, of course, but you will be able to see what content you're going to be doing in a fortnight's time, so you know what reading you need to do from the manual. But there'll also be some additional support materials, some examples of some of the paperwork, for example, that you will use in action, other support materials that the tutor feels is going to be helpful to help really embed the knowledge. Also, and we think this is very valuable, and it's a feature of all of our learning actually, but particularly all of our distance learning, before you do the tutorial, before you attend the webinar every fortnight, you will have the opportunity to test your knowledge via a little sort of practice assessment, if you like, which it'll vary from tutorial to tutorial, but it might be a multiple choice test, it might be a little case study, and you'll be able to check your answers to see how you've done. So you will know your areas of weakness, hopefully, before the webinar, and actually the tutors will be able to see, they won't mark those little mini assessments, that will kind of be done automatically, but they will see the areas that students have found a bit more difficult, and so we'll be able to concentrate on those during the webinar, really to make it as valuable an experience as possible. So there's that informal knowledge test every fortnight so that you know that you're on track. The formal assessments and exams, I won't go into them in detail for each of the units because they vary here. But as many of you know, at level 4, with the exception of the accounts modules, the students are assessed by way of controlled assessments that take place at appropriate points during the timetable program. So our tutors, I won't share this with you now, but as you would expect, we've got quite detailed, Here we go, here's that. Yeah, here's a sort of pre-look at it. This will be online very shortly for registered students. You will see the points during the delivery cycle where the controlled assessments are going to take place, and there you will have a week or two to complete the assessment, return them to the tutor for marking. Hopefully in most cases they'll be successful at the first attempt, but if they're not, you will get some feedback from the tutor, a chance to have a look again at the assessment and resubmit it. At the level 4 accounts unit and the level 6 units are all assessed by more traditional exams, which we will schedule at the end of each of the courses, as you would expect, at a number of exam centres around the country. I'll come on to that in a moment. But in short, we want you, if you choose to work with us, to succeed. And we're applying, in terms of how we structure this, 35 years of experience in delivering vocational qualifications, and quite a number of years experience now in delivering legal qualifications at this level, albeit qualifications certified primarily by the Chartered Institute of Legal Executives. Course duration, enrolment dates and exams, and practical questions. As you would expect, we've been picking up lots of questions from prospective students over the last few weeks. My colleague Amanda Harrison, our course administrator, is doing that. You'll get our details at the end, by the way, so specific kind of little questions, by all means, email through to her, and questions on that you're raising now, I'll answer at the end if I can, but if I run out of time, we'll do a little paper-based Q&A that will circulate with a link in a bit. So in terms of course duration, as it says on screen, at level 4, we've got a 6-month delivery cycle, with the exception of English legal system, which is 4 months, and at level 6 it's 8 months. One moment, sorry to interrupt there. My colleague Jen has just asked me to check, and if you can't see me, and you, in particular, you can't see the PowerPoints, would you, if there's a problem technically, either at our end or yours, would you mind dropping Jenny a line in the box that I think is on the side of your screen to see if you can see us? Fingers crossed, most, I hope, if not all of you, I hope all of you can see it clearly. We will, of course, send a link to the video and to the slides around to everybody after this presentation. So if you were to miss a bit of it, then you can catch up. So level 4, the units are 6 months, or in one case 4 months. At level 6, the units are 8 months. Enrolment dates. We are enrolling now for the first programs, and the first units that we are offering are the English legal system at level 4 and land law at level 4, and landlord and tenant at level 6. In most cases, the volume of work in these courses means that our view, ultimately it's a decision for students, but our view is that 1 or 2 units at the same time is sensible. More than 2 units is quite a bit of work. So those are the first 3 units, which start almost immediately. The first webinars actually take place in the first week and a half of February. Then in March, we will be enrolling for law of contracts at level 4, the accounts unit at level 4, and conveyancing law and practice at level 6. And then in June, just mopping up those final 2 units, standard conveyancing transactions, standard conveyancing transactions at level 4, and managing client and office accounts at level 6. I mentioned exams on the previous slide. I'm very pleased to say we have access to centres in Manchester, where we're based, as you would expect, but also in London, Bristol, Birmingham, and Leeds. It is likely actually that we will be using premises at the University of Law, who, as I mentioned before, are a partner of ours in relation to the solicitor and paralegal apprenticeships, and they have excellent facilities for people to take exams, as you would expect. So that will be the first course cycle, with all programs starting really between now and early summer, so in June. After that, our expectation is that delivery and enrolment dates will become more flexible. I don't think we would ever want a situation where students only have recorded webinars and no sort of live interaction with students, but I think it is likely that we will be able to offer some additional flexibility using recorded webinars and live tutorials on top of that, so that students are able to, ask questions and, if you like, talk to their tutors. And then I think we will move to a model where we've got at least, but I put in here 2, because I think that's a sensible number, probably 2 exam dates per year for those units that are assessed by way of exams at level 6 and the accounts units at level 4. A little bit about our tutors. Across our wider team, actually, we've got about a little over 70 members of staff at the moment, and of that group of 70, I think 17 are legal sector specialists. So solicitors, experienced paralegals, we've got some chartered legal executives in there. But for these initial units, these are lawyers who have both strong vocational experience in practice, still in practice, but also have significant experience of delivering the old CLC units and qualifications, to which these are obviously very closely related. I put a little bit about their bios there, but as you'll see, Anne Hartley has been and is still a practitioner. She's tutored across all of the CLC units. She delivers non-accredited training in property law and conveyancing at a number of universities and colleges, including the OU, and she also does some work for Silex as well. Andrew is a very experienced solicitor. He's been working in private practice for over 30 years, and he also has experience of delivering across pretty much all of the CLC units. I think a particular note, Andrew latterly, for example, has been helping write course materials for the CLC SQA unit. So the manuals that our students receive will be getting, in some cases, some of that content has been written by Andrew. So we've got 2 really experienced tutors. They will be delivering the webinars, and they will also be available online between webinars to answer any questions that students have. Cost and payment methods, and I think I'm conscious that cost has been difficult for people who were working sort of under the old CLC regime, because those programs I know were a good deal cheaper. So I'll give you a little bit of background about our approach and sort of why it's the cost it is. In this new world, the SQA, who are the awarding body, their registration fees are really quite high. It's at level 6. There's lots of value that they give with that, by the way, but at level 6, it's £400 simply to register a student for qualification. So, you need to add to that, of course, the cost of holding and invigilating exams, material costs, and of course all of the tuition costs. So I'm afraid it is more than it used to be, but I hope that the model that we're offering is, as I say, quite a lot richer than what was offered previously. We've tried to make the cost model as simple as possible, and also to spread the cost for students, because these costs are expensive up front. So it's a monthly cost across the duration of the course, and we've set it at £150 a month, which includes VAT, by the way, because if you are a student paying out of your own pocket, you're not going to be able to get the VAT back. Depending on the unit, therefore, because the course lengths are either 4 months, in one case 6 months, or 8 months, the overall cost is either £600, £900 or £1,200 per unit. But you don't have to pay that amount of money up front. We've deliberately tried to spread it in accordance with our delivery. It's all inclusive. There aren't any hidden extras. From conversations with a number of our students and employers, and this is something, if you are employed, that you may wish to broach with your employer, it is worth asking the question about whether you might be able to pay, or actually have them pay, but you sacrifice an amount of salary equivalent to the course cost. There is a saving there, always in tax, should be in terms of tax and national insurance, and there may also be a discussion to be had about VAT as well. So I say I shouldn't, and I'm not really advising on tax, but I would encourage people to raise the question with their employers about whether salary sacrifice might help. We want you to pass and we want you to succeed. So if you were to fail an exam, then we would be delighted for you to retake the exam again with us for free at the next exam sitting. We only do that once, I'm afraid. I think you would probably run out of patience if you're having to resit an exam every 6 months. But no, you can come on the next course for nothing and retake the next exam for free. Where we have an assignment-based sort of assessment model, so most of those level 4 units, of course, you get the opportunity to resubmit assignments anyway, so you'll be able to resubmit an assignment, get feedback from the tutor, and hopefully at the second go your assignment would pass. So I hope that's sort of clear as to why it is more expensive than the old CLC courses, but we hope and we believe that the new model is clear and transparent, but actually will be valuable, which is our aim. I'm conscious of time, and we're 22 minutes past, so I won't go into this in lots of detail now, but you will have picked up that as well as offering the diplomas on a standalone basis, it is possible also to study the diplomas embedded within an apprenticeship. The Council of Licensed Conveyancers have developed 2 apprenticeships at technician and licensed conveyancer level, and actually I've been involved with the CLC over at least the last couple of years in helping develop those apprenticeships. Actually, that's where our relationship with the CLC started. I'll just touch, I think, on the big differences between the diploma or the apprenticeship, and so you can think about whether it's right for you or what might be right for you. Apprenticeships are a broader program of study. I think that's the most important point, and they are designed for those in work. So you have to be working in a conveyancing environment for 30+ hours a week. You also need to have the support of your employer because you'll be receiving one-to-one tutorial visits from a DAMAR tutor on a regular basis, probably about every month to 6 weeks or so, as well as doing the distance learning that we're talking about here. There are some other components as well within the apprenticeship. There's an endpoint assessment that apprentices undergo before they complete the apprenticeship. So there's a bit more to it, but it is a bigger qualification, and it is designed to test really whether the knowledge that you're building up, the knowledge and the skills that you're building up as part of the diploma are being applied in the workplace consistently. People of all ages and existing and new staff can become apprentices, but as I say, you do need to be employed for 30 hours a week or more in a conveyancing environment. Currently, graduates are ineligible at level 4, but this will change after the 1st of May 2017, so graduates will be eligible going forward. And as I say, employer support is required because training visits and study by and large needs to take place during working hours. In terms of cost, and this is always the biggest question, whilst there is no cost for apprentices, generally speaking, an employer contribution is required, but there's quite a significant government subsidy. It varies depending on your age, so I'm not going to go through all of the details now, but the net cost is generally a little less than the cost of the standalone diplomas, but it's something that we can perhaps discuss with you if you are interested. It certainly merits a sort of proper one-to-one discussion about which is the best option for you. Moving on. And then finally, and I won't spend long on this, I thought I'd just share with you a couple of the example pages on DAMAR Open Learning, which is our virtual learning environment that we're setting up. Well, we have set up, but we're just putting the finishing course touches now to these courses that, as I say, kick off properly in terms of the webinars at the beginning of February, although students will get access before then, so you can do the preparatory work. But for every fortnightly seminar, you will see an introduction that tells you the reading that you're going to need to do in the manual, gives you a summary of what the content of the webinar is going to be, has some support materials, additional support materials that our tutors think is going to be helpful over and above what's in the manual, and also a little test your knowledge assessment, so you can see really whether you've learned. And here, the text on my screen anyway is very small, so you might not be able to see it. But here is a very little case study that is embedded in the second the second webinar on one of the courses that we're coming up in Feb. So I hope that's been useful. I say it really has been a whistle-stop tour in 25, 26 minutes of just some of the key features. I think one thing that I hope that you will take from this is that we've put a good deal of thought and planning into this programme, and we are absolutely committed to vocational legal education, whether that be the CLC diplomas on a standalone basis, whether that be apprenticeships. I'm going to, because we don't have very long, see if I can pick up a few of the questions that have come through. Any that, if I don't pick up your question, don't worry, I'm not ignoring it. It's just we're slightly running out of time, and we'll pick those up in a Q&A that will circulate. Will circulate in a Word document or something in the next day or two. Okay, so question from Claire about whether people can enrol for English legal system and land law after the 27th of January. The answer to that is yes, you can. The reason that we've put that 27th of January deadline in there is we know that that gives us time to get learning materials out to you and for you to do the pre-reading so that you can watch the first webinar live. Having said that, if you were to enrol a week or two later, maybe even that you enrol after the first webinar, you would still get the materials, you would still be able to access the webinar and the support materials, but you might find yourself, you might find that you're a little bit busier in the first 2 or 3 weeks than some of your fellow students who started a week or two before. So what I'm basically saying is yes, yes is the answer. You would be able to catch up. If you left it certainly beyond the end of Feb, I think you might run into difficulties in terms of being able to cover the content. But certainly there's a little bit of wiggle room for people who enroll a little bit later. A question about will we run exams in the Chester branch of the College of Law? Yes, we can. We work with the College of Law, University of Law nationally. The reason I didn't put Chester on there is it depends a little bit on where our students are based. In some cases, it's not too bad to get to Manchester. We're actually based in Stockport rather than central Manchester. And so we'll have a look at student numbers and what works for everybody. But yes, in principle, we can run exams in Chester. Is it possible? That's a good question. I've not touched on exemptions today, not because we're not able to deal with questions about exemptions, but they are quite complicated and I think merit a sort of one-to-one response. In fact, my colleague Amanda and I have been dealing with quite a lot of queries about exemptions. But the question is it possible to start level 6 units prior to finishing level 4? I'm exempt from all of the level 4 units starting in January. The answer is yes, I think it is. You can't, we'll check that, but yes, I think it is. You can't qualify as a licensed conveyancer until you've done all of the level 4 and all of the level 6 content. But for a student who's done pretty much all of level 4 and wants to move on to landlord and tenant, for example, I think that would be possible in most cases, but we will check that. A question about a student who starts off paying for 1 unit at £150 a month. Does that step up, in this case, to £300 a month when that student signs up for a second unit? Yes, it would. It's a modular basis, so depending on the number of units, the number of units that you are doing at once will depend, will obviously influence how much you have to pay each month. Someone who's asked Anne if you don't finish the unit in the allocated timescale. Everybody should, I hope, finish the unit in the allocated timescale. But as I say, we want students to succeed. You would be able to join the next run of that unit and complete next time around. In some cases, that shouldn't make a great deal of difference in terms of when you finish. The only sort of slightly tricky one is those units that are examined, so have a formal examination at the end. You will have to wait for the next sitting, if you like, because as you would expect, we can't produce new exam material on a sort of monthly basis, for example. So it might be a 6-month wait before you're able to sit the exam again. I think there's a question about when the exams are every 6 months, how long are the modules scheduled to last, or will this be explained when tuition dates are released online? Hopefully I've answered most of that. The modules are 4 months for the English legal system, 6 months for the other level 4 units, and 8 months for the level 6 units. We actually have, they're not online yet, but we have all of the tuition dates for those first 3 units. The exams will be at the end of the first courses for the first units that we're doing. Thereafter, as I say, I think we'll be able to move to a slightly more flexible model, and my anticipation is that we will run exams across all of the units, or all of the units that are examined, every 6 months. I'm conscious of time, it's 1:32. By all means, if anyone, I'm conscious that some people will be on lunch breaks and things, so do leave. But I'm not in any rush. I'm very happy to carry on working through questions. So I think there's probably only another 5 or 6. I can probably get through most of them now, I think. But we will drop everybody a line anyway. So if you do need to leave now, so it's just gone 1:30, I hope you found it useful. I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope you learned something. Do come back to us with any questions. Where I'll come back to the questions in a moment. But on the next page, there are our contact details, our office address, our office phone number, an email address that actually comes through to me and my colleague Amanda. So do ask any further questions if we haven't covered things. So anyway, back to the questions from you. Does training need to be undertaken on a full-time basis, or can you work towards it while working part-time? Well, if you are doing the standalone CLC diplomas on a commercial basis, you don't need to be working at all. Obviously, it is a little easier if you are working in a conveyancing environment, because you'll have that context and you'll have that sort of other people that you can ask about things if you need to or want to. But you don't need to be working full-time, part-time, or indeed at all. If you were interested in doing the diplomas as part of an apprenticeship, there you do need to be working pretty much full-time. The Skills Funding Agency require that apprentices nearly always are working for at least 30 hours a week. So no for the standalone diplomas. Yes, you do need to be working full-time if you are an apprentice. Question from Joseph, who has, I think, done quite a bit of work already on one of the level 6 units. In fact, both the level 6 units, and is sort of ready to sit the exam. Can somebody join our program just to do the exams? I'm afraid, Joseph, on the whole, no. And that isn't, we're not trying to be difficult on that, but we want to offer a program that works for as many as possible of our students. And so we took a view that we wouldn't have a sort of very kind of plain vanilla model, as well as the enriched model at the moment. So on the whole, I'm afraid that's a no. I'm sorry about that. And then a couple of thank yous. Thank you. Question, useful, quite interesting question actually from Claire about whether enrolments are just once a year. No, not at all. Enrolments will be, these first run of enrolments are happening on a sort of fairly controlled basis before we start the units. But as I say, because they are 4, 6 and 8 months long, you'll certainly be able to enroll when we start the programs again at the end of the first rotation, if you like. And as I said, right, sort of fairly early in the webinar, I'm very hopeful that actually after the first programs, we'll be able to move to a more flexible model, probably not completely roll on, roll off, but where we've got students who are able to access all of the recorded webinars, which we'll obviously have a bank of by then, and also receive sort of tailored tutorial support. So probably not quite roll on, roll off, because we will still need to make sure that the assessments and exams are taking place at an appropriate point, but as flexible as it is possible to make it without diluting quality. Do we allow exams to be taken in-house in exceptional circumstances? That's a good question. And I don't know the answer, I'm afraid, but my view would be that if, for example, it was a student who had mobility issues, or for some reason it simply wasn't practicable or possible for them to go to an exam centre, then that's something that we would speak to SQA about. And I would be hopeful that if suitable alternative arrangements could be made, then an exam could be sat in-house, and certainly we would be very supportive of that wherever possible. Question about whether a recording of the webinar will be available. Yes, it will be. We'll circulate that as well as the slides as soon as we can. It'll probably take a day or two for us to do that, so we'll probably do that on Thursday. Question from Sophie about whether we only offer the licence conveyancing course through an apprenticeship. No, we are offering the licence conveyancing course and the technician course in 2 ways. One, as a commercial diploma, so not as part of an apprenticeship at all. And actually most of our early students will be doing this simply as part of, on a commercial basis, not as an apprenticeship, but we also offer the apprenticeship, so we do both. MOL, I can't really comment on their delivery model, but my understanding is that they're offering the diploma, so they're offering the diploma, we're offering the diploma. We're both offering us, I think, it's a slightly different offer in terms of pricing, how and when people pay, and the delivery model. And so the good thing is there's a choice in the marketplace, and you can decide between us. But you could do the apprenticeship potentially, but you could also do the commercial qualifications with us. Question from Husseina on whether you can study more than one unit at once. Yes, you can certainly study more than one unit at once. Our guidance would be that 1 or 2 units is a good number. We wouldn't necessarily say no to someone who wants to study 3 units, but I think our feeling would be that would be quite a lot to take on. Good question tricky question about SILEX exemptions. Someone who's done some level 3 units at SILEX, Joanne, and wonders if any of those can be used for the purpose of exemption. At level 3, I don't think they can, I'm afraid, Joanne. The reason being that the CLC qualifications start at level 4, so by and large you can't use a level 3 unit as an exemption against a level 4 qualification. There's some really good guidance actually on the CLC website that I'd urge you to have a look at. But if you've got any questions having had a look at that, please drop us a line, ring my colleague Amanda Harrison perhaps at DAMAR, and we can help you. Question from Joanne. Loads of new questions coming in. I probably will have to draw a line in about 5 minutes or so, but it's great that you're asking lots of questions. Fingers crossed I've been able to answer, I hope, all of them pretty much so far. Joanne asking whether if she waits until she's almost finished the first level 6 module, will she be behind on starting the second module? I'm going to give you a slightly vague answer on that, Joanne. I hope not, because I hope that by that second run through we will be able to offer a more flexible delivery model. Apologies, I don't think I've been very clear in my answer to Husseina about training on a full-time basis, or sorry, working on a full-time basis rather. I see, right. It's to do with qualifying as a licensed conveyancer, and do you need to be working on a full or part-time basis? I think to get the bit of work experience that you need, the qualifying work experience to become a licensed conveyancer. Have a look at the guidance on the CLC website about the licensing process. There's some really good stuff on there in terms of the application you need to complete to get your license. I don't know the answer, but I would be very surprised if an appropriate period of part-time work couldn't count. My suspicion is that you will need a longer period of part-time work to, if you like, stand in place of a shorter period of full-time work. But do check that on the CLC website. Decisions around licensing and becoming a licensed conveyancer, ultimately that's a CLC thing rather than a DAMAR or an SQA thing. When will the live webinars be run? They will be during the working day, either at 2:30 or 4 p.m, we think. Happy to take feedback in due course from students on that. There may be a little bit of flexibility. So I would hope that most employers will perhaps allow a little bit of flexible working on those days for people to watch live. But as I say, if you can't watch live, you won't be disadvantaged. You'll be able to watch the recording. Another question. Thank you, Joanne, for all of your questions. You mentioned you said that the final exam that I mentioned at the end, is this for the license or just to pass your own level 6? Let me see if I've quite got that. The level 6, first of all, it isn't our level 6 diploma. This is the SQA level 6 diploma for in licensed conveyancing that's backed also by CLC, but it's an SQA qualification. It's not a DAMAR qualification. Once you've passed all of the academic stage of training, which if you go the CLC route is the level 4 diploma followed by the level 6 diploma, you have all of the academic credentials that you need. There's no further exam to take then to apply for your license. There are some other conditions that you need to fulfill, and there's a small fee that you have to pay as you would expect, but there aren't any further exams. Question, thank you Hussein, about whether the Intro to Law and the old Intro to Law and Legal Method paper has an equivalence in the new world. Yes, I think it does, and I know it's a little bit confusing because some of the unit names have changed ever so slightly, but I think Intro to Law and Legal Method is now the English legal system in terms of equivalence. If you have a look on the CLC website, there's quite a good PDF that you can have a look at that shows the old CLC unit names and the new SQA unit names. They're broadly the same. Okay, I'm going to call it a day there. I hope you don't mind. There are a number of further questions, but what we'll do is we'll do a summary. We'll probably amalgamate some of the questions, but we'll do a summary of the questions and answers, and we will circulate those as soon as you can. So many thanks for your time. I hope you found it interesting, and have a good day. And I do very much hope that as many of you as possible enroll with us, and if you do, I look forward to working with you and seeing you succeed on a program with DAMAR. Many thanks. Bye-bye.